Hi, and welcome to Real Trail Talk. I'm Donovan D'Souza from The Long Ways Better.
And I'm Mark Pybus from The Life of Pi. Welcome to episode 42. We have kind of a Don and Mark pod today. So we've had a lot of guests on, and we thought we'd have an episode on what it's like in the life of a hiking blogger.
Yeah, every episode we say that we're from The Long Ways Better and The Life of Pi, but we've never really talked about that beyond just like, oh, and our blog is here and you can go and check this out.
Yeah, I think we kind of touched on it in the last year review episode, but nothing kind of like what it's really like to run a hiking blog. I think it's probably surprising to people how long it actually takes to do a post, or especially I've gotten emails before where people are like, hi team, because they assume there's more that goes on behind the scenes. So it's interesting, getting people's takes on what they think goes into a hiking blog. So I guess we better discuss the realities of it. Because it is quite an involved life.
For sure.
So we'll start with the easy one. What is your website provider, and what do you think of that particular provider?
So I use Blogspot or Blogger, which is a Google product. And I did that because my first blog, The Ministry of Gluttony, which is an extinct blog, but still exists. So if you want to check it out, it's there, was also on Blogger. So I knew the platform, I knew how to set it up, but there are issues with it. It's a lot more difficult to customize. So I have a custom design that is based on a template that I've altered dramatically over time. But the problem with Blogger is a lot of the editing has to be done in HTML and CSS. And it is so frustrating. Every time I need to add a new menu, it's all in HTML. And sometimes if I want to do something like take a sidebar off the page, that has to be done in code. Which is not the easiest when I don't really know CSS. I know HTML well enough, but CSS is a bit outside my scope.
Yeah, so I'm on Wix, which was kind of like, I started the website and it was mainly as like a hobby thing, and then it kind of evolved into what it is now. So I wasn't really thinking when I started that I was going to have to do what I do now.
And I think you once said to me that you wasn't necessarily going to be a hiking blog per se.
Yeah, it was going to be an everything blog, and then I was like, I don't have time for this. And hiking seemed to be something I was getting into at the time, so I mainly focused on that.
Yeah.
But Wix is very visual based, which is good for me because I hate coding. You can code if you want. They've just added in like all these new options where if you want to be a developer, you can. But for me, it's literally I want to add a menu here, drag it in, customize it, change the layout, do whatever I want. Same with like photos and text and everything. So it's good that way, but it does have its limitations in you're set by what features Wix rolls out.
Right.
So one thing that really, really annoys me, and it's kind of like the last on the list that they haven't quite fixed, is my menus. I'm allowed the top menu and the drop down, and that's it.
Yeah, I noticed that you can't put like multiple in there. Yeah.
So that really bothers me, especially with the Billman post, because right now I've got the drop down and it's the town to town sections, and you have to click and then find the one that you want. And I know from a user experience point of view that's not ideal, but it's like I'm limited. And in the past, like I had previously only allowed one photo for each kind of representation for the site if you shared that link on Facebook. So if I wanted to put up a nice photo of, say, like a forest, if I was promoting a coastal hike, I couldn't do that.
Right.
It's mainly an issue for people who were sharing my links, but yeah.
Yeah, I remember there was one, it was always the same symbol of like a marker on a tree.
Yeah, from the King Jarrah walk trail. I was like, that's a generic photo of a hiking symbol. I'll just put that on.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I can highly recommend Wix if you want to start a website and you don't want to have to deal with code. It's a lot better now than what it used to be.
Yeah, certainly I wouldn't go with Blogger. I'd go with Wix or one of the other ones that have a graphical user interface.
Yeah, I think there's a big market now for website providers, so there's a lot of competition and they're actually upgrading a lot and very fast as well. So we'll move on to the next kind of point. Why did you start? You mentioned that you had a previous food blog.
Yeah.
What made you decide to scale that back and start hiking?
Well, so it was a combination of two things. One was I was growing very disenfranchised with food blogging because the trends were basically just bullshit stuff like putting a donut on top of a milkshake.
Yeah.
Or, there's this all this like grammable food that is just stupid. It doesn't really improve the thing. So that stuff was getting really annoying to me, that I could write up something that was, quite crappy, and because it looked cool, you'd get 1,000 reads. And then, if I wanted to write a degustation that I actually really cared about, that would take me 3 days to write that, and you'd get, maybe 50, 60 people interested.
Yeah.
So that sort of pissed me off a bit. And then secondly, I had all these photos that I'd just been taking, and I'd wanted to do something like this before, where I had all these photos from about 2008, 2011, around that time frame. And then I started taking stuff around 2015 when we were doing our Bibbulmun track sectional end to end. And I thought I wanted to document it, and the idea was that I was going to do like one of those photo books and have it on the coffee table.
Yeah.
And then I just had these all on the computer, and I thought I probably should do something with this.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be a long time before I get a book worth of stuff, and that's how the blog began.
Nice.
And how about yourself?
Yeah, it was kind of I stopped playing football during the winter, and I got kind of bored, and I really wanted like a creative outlet. So I was like, I'll create this website that, movie reviews, hikes, like TV reviews. I don't know what I was gonna.
Your one day of detox.
Yeah, my one day of detox. Someone looked at that today. I was like, oh god. Yeah, and so I was really getting back into hiking as well. And I was just trying to search the internet. There's just no information. Like the Numbat Trail, well, actually the Numbat Track back then, before I've accidentally changed it. That had like 2 photos, and it was just kind of a rough, it's in Gidgegannup somewhere, and that was it. So I was like, you know what, I'll create a website and I'll try and do what Trails WA I think set out to be, but has kind of got lost along the way. They had more quantity than quality.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just really wanted that as a creative outlet, and I always enjoyed photography, so I just wanted somewhere to share my journals and my experiences. It's kind of morphed from that.
Yeah, because I know certainly exactly what you're saying, that prior to the Life of Pi, and to an extent when Trails WA went from being top trails, before that, if you wanted to find walks, because I remember looking around 2008, 2009, and you'd had to call the local DBCA or DPOR officers, or CALM officers as they were, and you'd have to ask them, is there any walks in your area? And they maybe might help you, and they sometimes didn't. And you'd find some information on maybe the local tourism pages, but it would just be like one sentence, like King Jarrah Track, a 10-kilometer walk in the forest.
Yeah.
Great, you've told me nothing.
Yeah, don't know where does it start, what's the grade, what to expect, that kind of thing. And I think it's still kind of like that.
Yeah.
Especially in like the far reaches of like the southwest or the wheat belt area.
Yeah.
You just don't know what's out there, and you'll arrive at a place by accident and you'll be like, oh, cool, there's walk trails around here because I can see a sign, or I'm in a shop somewhere and I find a leaflet that has walk trails on it.
Yep.
It's just, yeah, that's why kind of the main reason I started mainly focusing on hiking is just lack of information.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that we've got kind of the blog established, what's your process? So starting from selecting a walk through to going on the walk and then the work afterwards. So
I guess, I'm always on the lookout for walks. It's a constant, it started with generally with spreadsheets. I'll just write lists, and then it's become calendar spreadsheets where there's these are the days that we're going to do them. So it was basically just working through the list to begin with, and it started off with the Bibbulmun, but then I thought, why not try other things? And it really, the reason why it became more than just the Bibbulmun was because I went over to New South Wales and we went to the Blue Mountains and I did a walk there and I photographed the whole walk. And I thought, gee, well, I should be doing this with the day walks in Perth as well. And then I started, having this backlog of all these photos. So the process, I guess, is it starts from that, and then I try to have, I try to think about what time of year things are. Walks that are not going to be that much greater in spring, I'll do in autumn. But I try to save stuff for like the busy period, which I think is like July through to October is when it's just the gold. Yeah. So my process is really I try to do a walk every weekend if I can, and then I try to use some, like if we have a holiday or something like that, to just get heaps of trails in there, and that's generally like a multi-day or trip, like going to Esperance and doing all the walks in the area, something like that. And I try to publish twice a week, and I try to do my photo editing so that I do the photo editing for the next week's photos, and then when I fly back and forth from Melbourne, to and from Melbourne, I write on the plane either there or back. And that can be very tiring.
Yes. We've had conversations before where you're like, I really don't want to do this, but I'm doing it.
Yeah, especially because I think, the way that my posts are is very much the amount of photos I put in there is how long the writing will be, because I'm basically responding to the photo as a narrative.
Yeah.
So when I have one which is like 50 photos, I go, oh crap, this is not going to be written on a plane in one go. I'm going to have to write some of this during the week.
Yeah.
And I think you've gone into quite a lot of photos recently.
We'll talk about this in a future question, but it's kind of, I've gone too far into the photo journal aspect of it. So some of my posts are now upward of, I'll sit there and edit 150, 200 photos. I'm halfway through day 2 of my recent trip, and I'm up to 70 photos, and I'm at the halfway point of a pretty like average day, and I've got like the best bit of the day to come up. So yeah, but much like yourself, I started off with a notepad document, and I just listed all these hikes. As soon as I'd hear about one, I'd put it into a different column, and that's still actually, I still refer to that. It's on my work computer. So every time I hear of a hike, I put it on there, and I'll come back to it. And now I've gotten to the more sophisticated. I've got a calendar in a spreadsheet, and I plan, this would be nice to do this hike in this time. And yeah, it's a complicated process and requires a lot of like adjusting mid-year and depending on the weather conditions and everything. But yeah, they're much like yourself. I'm trying to do it in the best time to showcase that walk. But then sometimes you can't avoid that. Like if you're going to Esperance over Easter, you're not going to get the amazing wildflowers that area is famous for. But yeah, it's a process that I've nailed down over the years. Is you go to the walk, you take all the photos, and I like to edit the photos first, which is now a 2-stage process. Is I select the ones I want to edit based off the raw images, and then I process them.
Same, yep.
And then you've got the photos that you can look back on and be like, oh yeah, I remember that, because sometimes you're doing it 3-4 weeks after you've actually visited. Yeah. So it's good to have that visual reminder of what went on. And in some cases, you're doing it a year after, in the case of when you think that you haven't backed up photos from a Billman trip.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So that was a bit of a tough one, but then like I've got a pretty good memory anyway. So I'd be able to kind of remember most hikes off the top of my head.
I think because you know that you're going to ride it, you're thinking about it as you're walking. Because Alyssa and I do walks, and she has no memory about certain things. And she's amazed that I remember it. But I think, as I'm walking, I'm thinking about how I'm going to actually ride it.
Yeah. So that kind of leads into a next question, and that's, how has having a hiking blog changed you as a hiker? Because you mentioned like you're walking the trails trying to remember. Are you also taking photos thinking of the blog and the presentation?
Yeah,
of
I am.
The piece?
Yeah, for sure. I'm thinking about how I'm going to tell the narrative of the walk with the photos. And as you say, like it does change what I do, because I think the big ticket stuff like going to Tasmania, doing the Overland or Frenchman's or Walls of Jerusalem, that kind of thing, or Cape to Cape here, they're things I would have done anyway because they're interest to me, and they're the big ticket trips that, you know, I do maybe every quarter or every half a year. But the day to day is where I think things are different, because, you know, I'm not someone who, you know, there are some hikers who just do the same track again and again and again and they love it, and power to them, but I'm not that kind of a person. But then on the other hand, I probably wouldn't do a new walk every other week or every week, which is what happens in winter, where it's just basically just looking for new walks, and it's content driven in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I understand.
How about yourself?
Yeah, same. I've just recently started thinking, when I'm taking my photos, like, what content do I want to put up? Like, what will make this trail look its best, and what photos can I take? And along your favorite section of road on the Bill Willman track, Marin Road, I was thinking, I can't, like, it's a 7.5 kilometer stretch of road. I can't just have, here's a shot of a 4-wheel drive track with trees, and here's one with some stunted trees, and here's one with sand. So I was like, what can I find on and off the trail that will provide some interest? And I think I'll get the balance pretty right. I haven't edited them up yet, but there was lots to keep my interest. And like, even some of the Shire Kalamunda walks, you're thinking, why are people coming to them, and why do you want people to come to them? So sometimes it's not about those big wow moments, because you're going to get that anyway. Like, you read up on certain hikes and you know what to expect, but sometimes you can get that different angle and get people to appreciate a walk, not necessarily for a big view or something like that. It's, you know, what you're looking for in a hike.
Can I say that on your blog, I feel that you capture a certain regard for the Jarrah Forest that I don't have. Like, I think you look at my Jarrah Forest photos and they're very matter of fact. Yeah. Where with Wandoo or Kari, you know, I'll have a nice photo, but Jarrah's just like, nah, I don't care. Just boom, this is it. Whereas I think that you can see the difference between you and I in that. Like, I can see that when you photograph the Jarrah Forest, there's a bit of love there.
There is, because you have to appreciate what's there. And like, I started off hiking in Jarrah, and it is the main tree that you'll see in the Darling Range. So if you're just going for a normal day hike on the weekend, you're not traveling, it's what you're going to come across. So I've learnt to appreciate it. I've also learnt to kind of hate burnt stunted Jarrah as well. I do not appreciate that. But some good old growth, not even old growth, but just unburnt, or even just mature burnt Jarrah, I'm a big fan of. Okay, so another one. What have you learned having a hiking blog?
It's interesting to see what people are interested in, you know, and I think that there's a big gulf between the two extremes of what people are interested in. So a very everyday walk that anyone can do, and preferably can take their dog, will get a lot of hits.
Yes.
And then so will something like, you know, a really extraordinary walk like Tarn Shelf Circuit or the Worry Circuit in Queensland. Those ones get a lot of hits constantly. But then so do my very much everyday kind of walks that to me are, you know, some of them I don't even care about. I remember once being really annoyed that the Palm Terrace walk, that went crazy. It was shared like 30-something or 40-something times on Facebook at the time that I was going to Karijini. And then all my Karijini posts didn't do anywhere near as well. I think altogether they did maybe just as well as that one post.
Yeah.
And you never know. So that's something that I find really interesting. You get a sense of what people actually want. And also I find the demographics really interesting. If you look at like who actually reads the blog, and on Facebook who your fans are. And I wouldn't have thought it was so heavily slanted towards a female readership and between a certain age bracket, which is like 20 to 40.
Yeah.
It's weird that there's such a disparity.
Yeah, I understand that one. There's this, because you think bushwalking, you think old man with a Nakubra and a, you know, an old school canvas backpack going off into the bush, but it's everyday people, and like it's I know women's sport is starting to get a lot more popular, but I mean, unless you're playing netball or something like that, there wasn't a lot of options to do like an exercise activity for females. So bushwalking kind of makes sense because you can get out there. You're out in nature. There's marked trails. It's not a physically taxing hobby, but at the same time, it's rewarding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of understand that, but it was a shock to see it as well on my part too. But for me, I've actually changed so much and learned so much from having a hiking blog in kind of unexpected ways as well. Like you're talking about your Palm Terrace walk getting all these hits and then your Karijini post not doing well. That stuff used to really annoy me. And now I've just kind of let it go. Like if something does well, great. But if it's not, then that's fine. Like it's up there for me.
Yeah.
And if people want to go back and look at it, it's always going to be up there. That's what I think. It's not like a movie review or a topical article you're writing and no one responds to it. I think you can probably get despondent over that. But these are kind of reference articles that you know will get better over time. So
yeah,
that doesn't bother me. And I've kind of learnt to not be driven by the kind of dopamine, social media, like
yeah,
culture that we have now.
Yeah, I think we talked about this last year at our end of year sort of wrap up about how I think we were both probably you do things sometimes for the blog and you go like, oh, this walk will definitely get me reads, and it's a walk that I just don't care about. And I think I've certainly this year kind of stuck to that, in that I've only really done walks that I've wanted to do. And even though there might be something that will get all those hits, I don't care. You know, like I'll do an off-track walk through Wandoo Forest because that's what I want to do.
Yeah. And I kind of like I did recently the trail I named the Golden Helena Valley Loop because I knew A, it's going to get a lot of hits, but B, it's also a very nice walk that I think should exist in the area. And I even updated my Delta South Ledge because that gets a lot of hits, and people, they think maybe that's the only option, but you have to present them with something else that's like, hey, this is what it could be, and show them that, you know, there's more out there than just these Shire of Kalamunda four-wheel drive track kind of walks.
I think that's a big story about WA hiking that I sort of learnt last year, was that coming back from Queensland, I was just really, you know, disinterested about hiking in WA because I felt it was so ordinary. But if you look beyond what's there, like you've done with this walk, there are all these opportunities there that are just not taken up. And that's the big thing to me, is I see potential. I don't see a lack of potential there. And that's something that I wouldn't know that if I didn't have a blog, because I wouldn't be looking as hard. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I fully understand. And one point I wanted to raise, especially with what I've learned, is the photography aspect. Like having a blog gives you this avenue to constantly self-improve. And I'll admit, like my photos from the very first couple of years, maybe stretching into the first 3 or 4 years, weren't great at all. They weren't even really good. And now that I'm always looking for improvement, and I'm like, I see what I see when I go hiking, I want that to be on the screen and shown to everyone. So I think like watching YouTube videos, reading tutorials, just trying to improve photography just in general. And I'd like to think that I'm a better photographer than I would be if I didn't have this hiking blog.
Yeah, because you're constantly practicing, I guess.
Yeah, because like I first got into it when I was in uni, and I bought a camera, but I kind of shot something every now and then, and that was about it. Whereas now you're shooting all the time, pretty much every weekend, and you're constantly looking for like a new technique or a better way of doing it or a better way of editing. And like I'm pretty happy with where I am now, but it's a lifelong thing. Like I'll always be improving.
Yeah.
And this gives you a good avenue, as I said.
For sure.
Now, you touched on kind of doing hikes that you know will get clicks.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to expand a little bit on kind of hiking for demand for the website versus your own personal use?
Yeah, so I guess for me, especially once it was past the first maybe year and a half, the question kind of becomes what now, right? Because you've done Wallyunga, you've done John Forrest, you've done Kitty's Gorge and Serpentine, you've done Numbat Track or Trail, whichever you prefer, and then you're starting to go to the obscurities. You're going, okay, what now? So Shire of Kalamunda walks, and we'll do an episode on Shire of Kalamunda, and the walks there are so varied from outstanding to really crap. Channel 10 Tower.
Yeah.
I guess when I write up something like the Palm Terrace Walk or, Whistlepipe Gully, you're going to get a lot of hits for it. It's what people, they don't have to travel very far. It's low maintenance. It's pretty easy. You can do it in a day. You can do it in a few hours even. It's not going to be something that people have to work for. But if you write up something like an off-track walk in the middle of nowhere that uses, you have to subscribe to Walk GPS to use, that's not something that everyone wants to do. Or even, going to Cape Range and going to Ningaloo and riding up a walk there like the Bajira Jira. Now that did quite well, but again, I think that's because it's extraordinary rather than everyday walk.
Yeah.
And that, I think, there's a big gulf there where people are not really interested in pushing it a bit further. So I think for a long time I found that my Southwest posts were much less read than the city ones. But I find that the Southwest ones have a longer sustained readership, which is interesting, because I think people just want to find something near Perth. So, that was something that drove me early on, but now I just if it's a good walk, that's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, same. Because like you said, after a year and a half, you're kind of running out of big ticket posts to do. So you kind of I have posts that I could do that I know would be easy wins, but I'm just you know what, I will save those maybe for later when they're in their best time, and then sometimes I just don't even get to them. You could quite easily do the Railway Heritage Trail. The 42 kilometre one, and people would love that because you'd have your cover shot of the Swan Tunnel.
Yep.
And you'd get a million hits, but it's not something that I really want to do. I've cycled it a couple of times. I just think it would be an epically boring walk because I've also done it on the Oxfam. It's not that interesting.
Yeah, I've walked it a few times. I wouldn't walk it again.
And same with the Kep Track. The Kep Track's been on my radar since I first started. But logistically, it's a pain. It's not going to be a great walk, I don't think. And so it keeps getting left off for better walks or finishing the Bibbulmun.
Even though we both had questions about it.
Yeah.
But it's I can't really recommend it, sorry.
Yeah. And another thing with the Bibbulmun is sometimes I think our main demographic aren't terribly knowledgeable about the Bibbulmun. So if they see Bibbulmun Track like Northcliffe to Gardiner or, Tom Road to Boarding House, that's just names to them. They don't pick where that would be and what kind of experiences you could get down there. So I think day walks definitely are big winners, and especially close to Perth, but everything else you kind of do for your own pleasure, and I guess that's kind of why we started anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I think we've both talked about it, you get a real great kick sometimes just reading about something you did 2 years ago, and just having this log of your memories that is more permanent than your memory is.
And on that, do you still write the same way that you do before, or now that you have such a large fan base, do you write for them or do you still write for yourself?
I still write for myself, I think. At the end of the day, it's for me, but I think initially I was writing in a much more matter-of-fact fashion, whereas now there's a lot more, I guess, of my own opinion, more, I guess, a bit more flair to it than just and then you did this, and then we did this. And yes, the whole idea, what I wanted with the blog was for people to be able to read it and get a sense of what walking it is like. So that's why I'm really passionate about saying if a walk is boring, it's boring,
Mm.
because I want people to know what the experience is, not just that it exists. And I'm not trying to write track notes, but I think at the start there was that sort of question of, am I writing track notes? And I've gone off the track notes thing. Sometimes I'll say, yes, you have to turn this way at the junction,
Yeah.
but that's not the aim. How about yourself?
Yeah, same. Like, I'll put in, if there's a difficult spot, this is where you should go, and try and link it to the photos. But I've always kind of had this is what I'm doing at this time of my life kind of approach to it. And a lot of the pages, especially the ones I've gone back and changed the photos, like Bluff Knoll, like if you read what I've written, it doesn't really match up to the photos. Cause
I remember your original photos.
Yeah.
Like
So-
the one with the tree that you said, like, life, but not as we know it.
Yeah, so I've still I actually just recently did that page again, and I kept that photo in. But yeah, like I struggled all the way up to the top with no visibility, but then you look at the photos and it's perfect visibility and nice clouds and everything. But yeah, I still try and include things that are relevant to my life that will, if I read them back, will ping me and get me back into that headspace.
Yeah.
So prime example is Bald Head. That was a really, really nice road trip for me because I had a nice Airbnb, and it was the NBA finals at the time, and it was, the brand new Golden State Warriors are in there for the first time. And I remember watching that game and cooking up bacon and eggs in the morning, having a really good time, and then going off to do the Bald Head. And it was a really great day, and like every time I read that post again, I have that little snippet and I can remember back to that time and what I was doing. So I like to include that stuff, even though it doesn't really relate to anyone else as they're reading it. But, it would be very boring reading turn left, turn right, go uphill, that kind of stuff. And I don't enjoy reading those blogs myself. So I'd like to think people enjoy reading kind of about what you were going through at the time.
Yeah, for sure. It's, I think, one of the things that I think is a great secret weapon for me is Alyssa, because she provides a lot of comic relief.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but when she does, it's gold.
It is.
Like falling into the puddle.
Yeah. And there's just those photos that you capture of her when she's got that look on her face like, I hate you right now.
and that's real. That's not playing. She's serious.
And I guess kind of in a way we are now kind of like comic book characters of ourselves, and we have these people that we bring in. Like I've got Aaron who sometimes appears, and Karis comes with me on hikes, and it's fun for people, I think, to relate to those people.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Now, in terms of website design, if you could stop the clock, didn't have any functional limitations with your provider, how would you change your website?
I've thought about this a lot recently because I recently changed my The Long Ways Better font, and it was something that I came up with on the plane a few weeks ago. But it just, the pain of having to deal with that on the blog made me just go, I'll leave that for another time. So one of the things I would do immediately, I've thought a lot about this, is that I would like the top bar to be a bit narrower and then have The Long Ways Better at the very top. But I'm not sure how to do that just yet. So I need to work on that. Otherwise, I'm quite happy with the overall layout. There's a lot of things that I've just let slip by, and that's the main thing. Like if I could stop time and just do all the stuff I needed to do, like the map of hikes hasn't been updated in over a year and a half, maybe more.
Yeah.
I would love to update that. There's a few other things. I'd love to be able to go through all the posts and update links so that, if I wrote about a walk that I did that maybe I didn't write up until a year later, I could have those links between. A few things like that. I wish I'd done an overview page for the hike I did in Vietnam. I left it because I was just so sick of writing about stuff that I wanted to write about when I was in Queensland, and I wanted to write about stuff I was doing now. Wish I'd done that then, because I don't remember enough to write an overview without having to read stuff. So there's a few things like that that I'd like to do. Menu-wise, I'm quite happy with things. I want to change all the day walks to be Day Walks Australia eventually, so that the WA just goes in with everything else.
Yeah.
Yes, it'll be heavily weighted to WA, but I think that would be nicer. One of the things that annoys me is that I have multi-day trails or
Yeah, you have multi-day
hikes. And the reason why it's not multi-day, or it's either multi-day trails, multi-day hikes. It's one or the other, but there's a distinction because I did some of the Bibblemenas day hikes. And that sort of frustrates me slightly because I want to change it, but then that's not true for that one. I have to put a little asterisk. And yeah, so things like that sort of I would like to fix. I'd like to be able to have a better searchable method. Like I'd love to have a table where you could say the walks of this length, here's where they are, what kind of things you can experience there. Kind of like, I guess, more of a Trails WA thing, but with the depth of having a full write-up.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of work, and I don't have the skills to create that kind of database just yet. How about yourself?
Yeah, very similar. So what you just mentioned there with like a searchable, I'm looking for this, here's some criteria, and then it spits out a list of trails. I'd love to do that, and it's been suggested before, but I can't do it. There's just no functionality for that on my website. And same with the maps. Like I have at the moment, if you're on the desktop, you can have, I think it's Perth Hikes Southwest. So I think it's all of them have a static map and an icon, but I want to be able to have a zoomable map where you can see the trail, how long it is, it's color coded, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just, unable to put that on at the moment. I only just figured out how to have an interactive map with a third party provider on each page. So that's kind of amped up that. Whereas before it was a static image or a couple of images actually with the elevation chart and everything. And another thing I'd like to do visually, which I'm not actually sure how I would do it or describe it, but I would like a timeline flow method to the hike. So maybe like an autoplay system where either I read out what I'm writing or you read sections and then photos pop up as you're going along the trail.
Oh, that would be cool.
Which I'm not sure how visually that would work, because obviously it'd work great if you're on a one-way trail, but if you're on a loop it would kind of circle around and do this weird thing. But just to be able to provide like a more immersive experience to a website user. But right now I'm pretty happy with where I am. You mentioned before like having to go back and do something. You have to do it for every page, and that's what the annoying thing is with having these websites of the scale that we have them now, is if I want to change a menu or a font or a picture, gallery type, anything like that, I have to do it probably upward of 200, 250 times at the moment. And I'm actually currently right through in the middle of a website redesign again, just with the galleries that I have. I did them, but I didn't select the right gallery type. The margins are too thick, and when you click on them, it gives you a new web page, and I don't like that. So I've got a new format, and I've done the Billman track and a couple of other, I think Tasmania, it's all in the new format.
All the squares.
Yeah, all the squares, and it's a 16:9 format as well, so you pick up a better range of the photo. And for some reason, maybe it's the smaller margins between them, but it looks crisper and clearer.
Right.
So yeah, I always refer to my website, it's always in a beta format, as in it's never quite done.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the full redesign from the old black background with the white writing to now white with black, and that was an effort. I think I ended up doing like, I don't know, 2 to 3 hours a day for a few weeks on that. Just trying to get it into a new format.
And that was quite early on as well, because I remember the black background website.
I actually was very fond of it, and every time I look at your website I was like, see, it can work.
Yeah, I guess that's one of the things that I wouldn't change, is that I am a disciple of the dark theme. I know it's not trendy, but I think it's coming back.
It looks good, and the photos look so much better, because normally very rarely do you have white as your main color in a photo, so it kind of gives it a natural border, and that's what drew me to the style originally. But yeah, I think now with the galleries, I think that's less of an issue, whereas before I had these big chunky photos you had to scroll through, and I don't think it was really a good user experience for anyone.
Right.
One question that always comes up, and I've thought about it for ages, and I've had Karis's uncle quiz me on this quite a lot, is monetizing the website and trying to make it not necessarily a full-time job, but something that brings in revenue that justifies having it. Have you ever thought about that and ways that you could potentially do that?
Yeah, I have. So I think one of the things I could do, which I know that you've done, is have ads on the blog. I'm not so keen on that for myself, but I see the appeal of it. See, it would be great if people would just, if they want to use your photos, they'd just pay you. You know, that pisses me off so much when I find my photos being used all the time by people. And I've written a photographic use policy because it's happened enough times that I've said, no, this is not good enough. So that would be something that if I was going to make money from it, that would be what I would like to be able to make money from it, is that if people wanted to use photos, they just pay for it. The other thing would be it would be great to be able to do a hike gratis. You know, like someone just goes, here you go, just do this with, you know, you're a popular blog. We would like to see what you think about it. That would be cool. But I think that even, you know, except for, I don't know, like Carol Ryan, I've not seen a lot of people do that in Australia.
No.
Unless they're lifestyle bloggers.
Yeah. I'm still unsure whether she doesn't do it full time though, does she?
No, and she's only had a few. Like, she's had the Tasmanian Walking Company, I think, do a few there, and she's done a few other ones.
I think she went to Tahiti maybe to promote that as well. But yeah, I understand where you're coming from. And to be honest, the ads on my website, I try and keep them minimal. So I've got a banner ad up the top, which doesn't appear on the mobile, and an ad at the bottom of a page. That's it. That's just, like, it brings me enough revenue to pay for my hosting costs, and that's it. So, I mean, I'm not allowed to tell anyone to click on my ads, but if you see something you like, click on it, please. You'll earn me like 20 cents. But yeah, I've often thought about it, and one question that always comes back to me is, do I want to make it a monetary stress on my life? And then what I mean by that is, do I want to have that stress in my life where it has to bring in income? And I don't think there's nothing you could really do that would give you a salary that we would both be on now. Even selling photos,
I'd have to be selling a lot of photos.
Yeah. And there's just not the demand out there for them. Like, I think people, because they can see them online, they're like, that's cool, I can just go and look at that. And very rarely, like, I have an online store. I just don't think, the pricing's not fantastic and I can't control that. But yeah, there's just a lot of effort goes into selling photos or canvases or even just digital prints.
Yeah.
That there's just such a saturation on the market these days that people don't really want to pay.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you can right click on something and just take it, you know.
Yeah.
Like, and you know, I know I'm not Jared Singh, so you know.
But again, like, the photos, like, if you have a connection to a walk, if you've come over to do the Billman and you really enjoyed Mount Chance campsite, like, some of your photos from up there, I would be like, yeah, that would take me back. Maybe I'd like that framed, or I'd like, you know, to look at that every day. But I don't know, I guess people just don't do that at all.
Yeah.
And in terms of, like, the people paying for you to do hikes and then writing them up, so I don't think there's a budget for it at all. Like, all the budget would go into, if it's a new walk, getting it created and then creating a few leaflets or a website, and that's it. Even the new Collie hike that they've just done, they'll pay to build it and it'll be on Trails WA with 4 photos, but that's it.
Yep.
It'll be the likes of us that will have to come along in a couple of weeks and do that. And I don't know, I guess that kind of comes on to it's free advertising for the wherever we go.
Yeah.
And it never really bothers me at all. Like, I'm happy to go out because it's my own experiences, but at the same time, it'd be nice, especially the WA state government, to maybe provide a grant or something like that.
Yeah. I think, I would love to be in, I guess, if I could have a job in the industry, it would be in trails advocacy, because I feel like there's just not a lot of action on doing. There's a lot of talk on strategies and things like that, but there's not a lot of actual doing.
Just like groundwork of getting people out there and experiencing these areas. And I won't name names, but there is a not-for-profit organisation that gets a lot of funding, and they've just got a grant for the specific use of promoting outdoor trail use in Western Australia. And I was just shocked at that. I was just like, how have they got it? Because they don't do a lot of work. They don't have a high viewership or social media reach. And I was just like, give that to us. Like, for pretty much doing what we do. Like, the amount of people that say, oh yeah, I did this hike because of you, or I'm going to do this because I'm down in this area. Like, it's not, I mean, I don't really want to sound ungrateful or that we're doing all this work for, other people's gain, but it is kind of like that. Like, we're kind of tourist ambassadors at a very grassroots level.
Yeah.
Which I think can be sometimes more effective than a let's take a snap with a quokka kind of campaign.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, I'll stop being bitter and I'll get off my high horse. Let's talk about social media.
Yeah, okay.
You use certain platforms more than others, and we've both discussed probably more in the last year about the challenges of social media and getting your content out there, basically. That's what I want to say.
Yeah.
So Facebook's algorithms are baffling at times.
They change, and that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it's weird that we both have roughly 3,000 followers, and you'll post something and it gets like 20 reads, which fair enough, like not everyone's going to be interested in the content you post, but then you look, they have a reach counter, and sometimes it reaches 400 or 500 people, and you're just like, how? Like, everyone should be seeing this.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the same time, like, I follow other pages not related to hiking, and I don't see all of their content, so I can understand why.
Yeah.
It just gets frustrating.
Yeah, I think we've had some interesting, I think that in Perth it's very seasonal. Like, once it gets too hot, people just don't want to go hiking. Because we both talked about this towards the end of the year last year, that just really dropped off in terms of readership, when it was like really, for me, like I had one of my best months in October or September last year. And it's interesting to see that seasonality. You can clearly see when people are ready to go out walking.
Yeah.
Like, I've recently noticed an uptick, and so have you.
Oh, Easter was just nuts.
Yeah.
Like 2,000 plus page views a day, and it was just this spike. And even like throughout winter and spring, you can see like it's ... and then Saturday, Sunday, it's just this spike.
Yeah.
As people get out, which is understandable, but yeah, it's an interesting trend to monitor.
Yeah. I still think Facebook is a better platform than the others. Like, I think I get a lot of reads from Facebook, and there's a lot of pages that share our stuff, and so that makes a difference. I had a viral video that helped me get a lot of likes earlier this year. So things like that are kind of cool. So I think I do produce sometimes a video that's not really related to the blog, but it's from the holiday. Like, I recently posted some to do with the Gap.
The Gap, yeah.
And that didn't go quite as crazy as the Qual, but it was certainly popular.
Because you got a share from Explore Parks WA on the Instagram stories.
Yeah.
I mean, it did quite well, and that's kind of like the what you need every now and then.
Yeah, I think people like videos,
Yes. With regards to shares, I think it was Duckhole Lake in Tasmania, which, granted, I understand basically having an almost entirely WA following that some people might not be interested. But I think when I posted that, I had 4 people read it that day.
That one of them was probably me.
One of them was probably you. I don't think my mum reads anything I do. But then later on, one of the Tasmanian, not the official tourism account, but one that's got like, 80 or 90,000 likes on it, shared it, and it just went nuts. And I was just like, well, people are clearly interested in the content, but it just doesn't get out there sometimes to the right audience. Which again, we've discussed in relation to the WA tourism pages. There's quite a few of them, and some are a lot friendlier than others.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 in particular don't even want to know you. Actually, probably extend that to 3.
Yeah. I'd say Coral Coast, I won't say the bad ones,
Yeah.
but Coral Coast, I think, are the best. And I think they have the best Instagram feed as well. I think that theirs has integrity and interest. Like, they really look at everything. So I'm a big fan of Australia's Coral Coast. I think that they do a really good job.
Because, a lot of them, and that happens everywhere in the world, is they're interested in those wow Instagram moments. So lots of drone shots, lots of van life shots.
Yeah. Very grammable.
Yeah.
And not a lot of
very highly
variation.
edited, like washed out skies and, bright beaches and whatnot. Which kind of, you understand, but at the same time, there's a big disconnect between seeing that on Instagram and visiting a place like Lucky Bay and going, it's not like that.
Yeah.
Very rarely, well, not very rarely, but you'll see kangaroos on the beach, but it's not like there's mobs of them waiting to take a selfie with you.
Yeah.
And unless you're flying in a plane or a helicopter, most of the time you're not going to get to see those views.
Yeah. So, that's something we've talked a lot about is the Parongarups. There's always that Castle Rock photo from like above. And you can't get that shot. You're not going to see that. You can go to Parongarups and you will not get that view unless you're in a helicopter.
Yeah. And the thing that I always take away from that hike is the ladder.
Yeah.
And the Granite Skywalk, and seeing everything from there, not what it looks like from 50 meters in the air. But anyway, we've had a bit of a whinge.
But so we talked about Facebook, but Instagram, I guess, is the other platform that we both use.
Yeah.
And I have spent some times where I've just really hit it hard, and sometimes, like recently, I've just really gone off it.
Yeah.
And I find it just very fickle compared to Facebook.
Yeah. So Instagram, I use quite heavily. I have this kind of groove now where it's 3 posts per hike, and now I've just started getting into the galleries because it's a way to trick the algorithm, because people see, if they don't like it the first time, it'll click over to the second picture and it'll show up in their feed again, which, it's a cheap way of doing it, but at the same time, like if I'm doing a really nice hike and I have 100+ photos, picking 3 is not enough sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's a good way to interact with your fan base as well, whereas Facebook, unless they comment, that's about it. You don't get to see what they do, whereas Instagram, you can follow them back and see what everyone else is doing. So I always enjoy seeing like where everyone else is hiking, and seeing them get outdoors and enjoy things and visit new trails. And it's just a good way of not keeping tabs, but monitoring and seeing what everyone else is doing.
Yeah, because I think you can interact with people as equals a bit more than Facebook, whereas because it's a page, they're people and you're a page.
Yeah. Yeah, they're interacting with you, you're not interacting with them.
Yeah.
Whereas Instagram, it's a great way of connecting with the Perth hiking community, because you can search hashtags and see what trails are like at the moment, see who's out there. Yeah, I quite enjoy Instagram as a medium. It doesn't drive much traffic to my website at all because there's no clickable links that people can feed through to, but I'm not on there for that. It's you share a few photos, you like other people's photos, you comment on them, and it's good fun. And especially with keeping tabs on the Billman, and like you get end-to-enders, and I've favorited the Billman track hashtag so I can see who's posting in that, and you get to meet all kinds of interesting people through Instagram. I enjoy it.
And you use Twitter, which I don't use.
I occasionally use Twitter. Sometimes it's great, and I find the tourism accounts actually interact on Twitter a lot more than they do on Facebook and Instagram. So
Right.
every time I tag the official West Australian page in something, they always reply and respond.
Ah, that's cool.
But in terms of traffic, I'll be lucky to get 1 or 2 clicks out of Twitter.
Yeah.
I mainly just use it personally for different reasons other than hiking.
So, because I used Twitter briefly as part of Ministry of Gluttony, and I found it so useless that when I switched over to The Long Way's Better, I just thought, nah, there's no point.
Yeah, it's a very short-term medium. Very rarely will anything appear outside of a few hours on the life cycle, so it's not great if you're trying to promote something unless you do the heavy-handed, 4 or 5 tweets a day, which I don't like doing.
Yeah, I think it's good if you're good for politics and, things that are very snappy.
Yeah.
But otherwise, no.
Yeah, personally, I follow a lot of sports, and Twitter's great for that because you get the instant takes, and then something else happens, and you've got new takes and news breaks, and it's a good. I describe it more of like a wave crashing rather than just floating around on the ocean. Lots happening. Speaking of social media, this one probably applies to you a bit more because you're very outspoken in some of your views. Have you had any bad interactions through social media?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. I had two that are interesting. One was that I was accused of being a cyberbully for something that I didn't do and that no one I know remembers ever happening. And even though sometimes I do want to, scream at people who are making really obtuse statements, I generally am fairly diplomatic. But, I had an email that said that I was cyberbullying someone who was a page admin. It didn't happen. I have no memory of this. No one I know has memory of this. And I was accused of being not supportive of the community, which, when we're talking about writing a blog and something that you do all the time, that was really upsetting to me. I didn't really get an apology for that, so it is what it is. And also, I'm a noted hater of the Jarrah Forest, particularly because it's burnt. And as a result, the bib being a lot of it on Jarrah Forest, I think I've got mixed feelings about the bib, as people who have maybe heard Northcliffe to Walpole would know. But then I also love the bib if you listen to something like Walpole to Denmark. But I recently wrote something that I said that the facilities on the Hakea Trail were better than the bib. And I got a message saying, "Why are you always slagging off the bib facilities?" And I went, "Are you serious? If you read the overview of the Bibbulmun track on my page, I comment about the things that I don't like about the track, like the Jarrah Forest or the fact that a lot of it's on vehicle trails, and there's all these things that are not the best parts. But I never have complained that facilities are crap on the bib. I think of any long distance trail, you'll be hard pressed to find one with better facilities anywhere in the world. So that was a really interesting challenge to have that come into me. I wasn't polite in my response. I think I was very
curt.
Yes. I think I think the comment crossed the line, so I didn't hold back. Have you had anything?
Not that I can remember. The worst I've had is someone recently, I did like a Q&A thing on Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
Someone told me to make the walks. Why aren't your walks easier to find? So I responded back very sharply, like, they're not my walks. I'll give you a zoomable map. It's up to you after that.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, any positive interactions that you can recall?
Yeah, so I've had people, write and say that, I felt like I was there with you while, reading about your particular blog, or people have messaged me and asked for help about things, and I've been able to point them in the right direction. Like recently I've had someone whose kids are doing the Cape to Cape, and they've been asking me for advice, and that's been really nice being able to provide that information for people. So those are positives. But it's nice when you get people who say, "Oh, thank you so much for this. Really made me feel I was there, or made me really want to go do it." Those are the things that are really nice. So if people want to comment at the end of the blog, I do read it. I don't always respond, but I do always read in the comments section below a post.
Yeah. I unfortunately I do read within the next couple of days if I've got a new post, but the way my website is set up, if you comment via Facebook on it, it doesn't show up.
Oh, really?
Like, it doesn't notify me. So sometimes I'll just be randomly searching through or rereading a post, and like 7 months later I'll be like, whoops, that kind of seems kind of rude not to respond.
Yeah.
So if anyone out there has posted a comment on my website, sorry if I didn't get back to you, but I don't get notified at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great. Like, you get the occasional email saying, thank you for the blog. It's very helpful. And then asking questions, which I'm always happy to help with.
Mm.
It's just, yeah, it's a very friendly community. And sometimes people just need like one or two little things clarified, and then they're happy to go on their way.
Mm.
But it was interesting. I know I've mentioned this last year about being recognized straight away. And it's now happening because I'm finishing up longer sections of the bib, and just my recent trip doing Northcliffe to Walpole, on the first night, met a guy called Malcolm, and I had my Life of Pi shirt on, and as we were meeting, I extended my hand. I'm like, "I'm Mark," and then he kind of paused. I was like, "Oh, is there something wrong here?" He's like, from the Life of Pi and Real Trail Talk, I know you. And even on the last day, it was like pouring with rain. I was near Deep River, and I'd passed the mother of the group, and the daughter was walking behind, and I was in my rain gear. I didn't have any logos or anything showing, and she immediately just like, "You're Mark from Real Trail Talk." I was just like, wow. Like, that's the memory, because I don't actually post a lot of photos of myself on the website. So it's good to interact with people like that. As much as I kind of shy away from the attention, it is fun when people recognize you and want to have a chat about hiking. And
yeah, I seem to be out when there's not a lot of people, but I have been recognized. My voice was recognized when I went to, there was a public forum for, I think it was for the trail strategy. And I said something, and someone came up to me and said, "I know you. I know you from Real Trail Talk."
It's that late night ABC voice.
It's that Real Trail Talk voice.
No, but it is like, it's fun answering questions, and kind of, I've never really thought about it as like our friend Bonnie jokes that we're hiking personalities, but I never kind of think of myself as that. It's just you exist, you walk these trails, and you're just like anyone else. But when people recognize you, it kind of like reminds you that, oh, hang on, like, you've got 3,000 plus followers. People are interested in what you do and who you are. So it's interesting
for sure.
I guess we'll kind of finish with what's in the future for the Long Ways Better and the Life of Pi. So I'll let you go first. How long do you envision doing this for?
I think with the Ministry of Gluttony, I just got bored of it, and there were things that I didn't like about food blogging. I think it's even more trend based than hiking blogging is. So I got to a point where I just didn't want to do it anymore. Whereas I don't have that feeling with hiking, and my list is ever growing, and I think it will keep going as long as I can keep it going. I've had moments where I've been really busy with work. So like about a month ago, I was really busy, and it really was hard to maintain a blog while having, work stresses like that. But yeah, I can't see an end to it in that sense of that. There's, hiking is something I've done for a very long time, and I've always been interested in it. So I think that I would keep it going for a long time. And like Alyssa and I have talked about, if we had long service leave, of doing a trip around Australia or doing a Europe, trip, depending how much money we had, because I think that would really decide where we're going to go.
Mm.
And if we did, hiking would be part of that. And I just don't know when it ends.
Maybe when some mini adventure dons come along.
No, because that's the thing I've said to Alyssa. I said, if we have mini adventure dons, yes. So in the short term, maybe our hiking adventures, like doing a multi-day, might be out of the question. But then I've saved walks that I know are okay for that. Like I've saved, like the Green Gully track. I know it's terrain-wise is quite difficult, but you can have the huts to yourself the whole time. So that's something that we've always sort of had in the back burner as something we could do like that. I've read of people doing the 3 capes with the baby. So these are things that we've thought about. Like I've got these trails that are like, okay, so if this happens, this is what we're going to do. Or we do a lot of day hikes. We go to places where it's mostly day hikes. But, I do not want that to be a hindrance. And I've seen enough things online. And we met a couple when we did the Bibbulmun, and we went to Donnelly River Village, and they went to South America with the baby and did a lot of trekking. And I think it's possible if you really want it. So, yeah.
I'm just picturing at the moment Don as Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover, because you already have the arm pack, so you're used to the weight on the front, and then you just have a baby strapped to you.
Yeah, that's right.
With some of your sunglasses on and like a little beanie maybe.
So I don't think I see an end to it, and that yes, there probably will be a slowdown if that happens. But an end? No, I don't think so. How about yourself?
Yeah, for the time being, I don't see an end. Like, I have enough on my plate that I could probably quite easily sustain this pace until maybe 2021. Because once I finish the bib, then that opens up almost every weekend in winter, spring, autumn for me. And then there's overseas trips, there's over east trips that I want to do. And I mean, we've had this discussion many, many times about the opportunity cost of doing one trail over the other.
Yeah.
Is you have finite amount of time in life. What do you want to be spending it doing? And to be honest, you could probably plan from our age through to retirement quite easily on an overseas trip a year or a couple of over east trips a year, and be quite happy and have enough content to put onto a website to keep you happy.
Yeah.
And I always enjoy like going back to a trail and photographing it after a fire or different seasons. Like was it last year maybe that only just captured 60-foot falls with water running in it.
Yeah.
Which actually I haven't updated the website with, but like stuff like that, whereas you get to see it from a new perspective. And I'd really like to get into the group hiking again. I think that would be a fun thing to do, but again, down the line. So it would probably shift shape a little bit, and I might even get into mountain biking or trail running or something. So
not dirt bike riding.
Not dirt bike riding. Let's finish with one point. If anyone's starting a hiking blog, what advice would you give them?
Well, I'd say first of all, don't use Blogspot, even though I use Blogspot. Or just be very good at coding. Be better than I am at coding, because it's a challenge. I mean, I think Blogspot is recognized, and it's fairly easy to start with, but I would suggest not doing it. I think about your audience as well, in terms of what you want to do, but then also think about yourself. Like, don't just think about creating a product. Like, if it's going to be sustainable, it has to be something that you actually enjoy. And I think that when I started writing, really, there were not a lot of, like, other than you. I think you were probably like the first pioneer of the Perth scene.
God, that's worrying.
They're really, yes, there were some people like Oz Hiker had stuff, but it was very, very, brief and not really informative. And there was a few other people as well who did stuff, but it didn't last very long. They were maybe something that were flash in the pan, like a year. They really went hard at it and they lost interest. So just, be prepared for that commitment. That, I think doing 2 posts a week can be quite tiring. And you're going to have lulls because, you're going to go through summer, unless you're going to every summer go to Tasmania or something like that. You're going to run out of things to do, and that's okay because the readership is not there. But then when it is hiking season, it's full on, especially August through October, I feel is like every weekend. So that's what I would say. There's certainly room for more. Like, I think Mark and I have both been very supportive of other bloggers doing things. And I think it'd be great to have other perspectives out there for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Because you see like hiking blogs or just even like just other blogs just come in and they post a few trails and then they kind of drop off and you don't see them. I think if you're going to start one, you're going to be serious about it. I think you have to be consistent. And like when I started, I wasn't terribly consistent. I think my first full year I posted maybe 12 trails over the autumn to spring. But it's just a matter of hanging in there, because early doors you're not going to get anything at all. I mean, even when we started Real Trail Talk, we only have like 600 followers on Facebook, and like it's a lot of effort to try and keep something like this going.
Yeah.
And you just have to be prepared for a lot of effort, no reward. But you'll eventually, like we both, when we started, had like big shares from Trails WA or like other big sites that support you, and that gives you a good leg up, and then people start reading you and they get a feel for your style and interact with you a lot more, and that helps. But you just have to be patient and do it for the love of it. I think if you're doing it for likes and hits and page views and everything, there's just not a big market out there for hiking in WA to be able to do it. But it is a very rewarding community to be a part of. I think what you lack from quantity, you get in quality.
Yeah. I mean, I think back to when we did episode 20 of this pod and someone said, congratulations, very few pods make it to episode 20.
Yeah.
And that was nice to know, like, that we beat the statistic, you know?
I mean, even though listenership has dropped off a little bit, not significantly, but like you're just doing it for fun. And you're never going to, like, as we discussed, you're never going to make money out of it unless you're constantly pushing everything or you have really, really good contacts. You're just doing it for the love of it. Yeah. I think that kind of, it shows through in both what we do is if you, like I costed my website the other day on like the back of a napkin. It's in the hundreds of thousands of dollars if you add up developer fees, commercial rates for photography, writing fees, that kind of stuff. So if like a government came along and said we want this kind of quality over this quantity, your effort it's a lot.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to do that for free as well.
And you're gonna have listen, I have had arguments about how much time you've spent on the blog.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for that level of passion.
Especially if you work full time, it's not just you come home and then you spend an hour on the blog. It's sometimes you're editing photos for 3-4 hours a night.
Yeah.
Then writing up the next night. And Kara's like, you're always on the computer, always in the office. I was like, yeah, but like I don't watch TV. I don't really do much. Like I enjoy watching a TV show and every now and then, but I won't sit in front of the TV just mindlessly. I want to be doing something I enjoy, and that's listening to music and editing photos and writing up, and like you just want to make a good product and a good experience. So that has to drive you, not anything else.
For sure.
So I guess that's kind of hiking, blogging in Perth 101 we've gone through, and a bit of kind of an insight into the world and what ticks over for both of us and how content gets from basically planning to the end. Yeah,
for sure. Bit of a behind the scenes view that, I think a lot of, I think when you mentioned it to me, I thought it was an intriguing idea because we've never really talked about it. And I think I hope that people found that interesting and different.
Yeah. I hope people understand kind of the work that goes into it, and like we don't do it for money, we do it for fun, and we enjoy when people get a kick out of it. So if you do, interact and like and comment and email. We love to hear from people, so we'd love to hear from anyone out there.
Yep. And if you want to start your blog, I'm going to steal Mark's line. Go out and experience it.
Just do it. And if you actually are serious about doing it, Don and I are more than happy to help out and share. And
for sure.
When there's a new one come along, we always give it a share and are interested in what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
I've never ever thought of anyone as like competition.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be doing this pod together if you thought that. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been our pod about blog writing. If you had any questions about this episode or any other episodes, you can email us at realtrailtalk@gmail.com or message us on Facebook or Instagram, whatever. We always check this stuff. And if you've enjoyed this episode and other episodes, please give us a rating on iTunes, which may not exist very soon.
Really?
Yeah, they're going to get rid of it. But will become something else.
Okay.
On iTunes and Podbean and Spotify and all the other ones that we're on, because Mark has added us to everything now, apparently.
Yeah, Stitcher as well.
Yeah, that's the one. So, those things really help us and let us know that we're doing a job that you enjoy. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our next episode. Until then, happy trails.